Hi everyone, welcome to the top 5 series. And this week's top 5, we are going to talk about 5 Telugu movies which are a must watch if you are looking forward for Kalki movie. Now, why do I say that? These movies are a perfect combination of Pauranika and the current day situation. These movies have been super hits, and some of them have changed the landscape of Telugu movie, raised the envelope, so to say. And these are very interesting reimagination of Pauranika in modern day setting. Now, what is a Pauranika movie? If you ask me, then think about it as loosely either based on historical figures in the past or based on mythology, the rich cultural epics which we have in our country, or it may be based off an actual historical figure who is no longer there today. Those are loosely what we call as Pauranika movies here in the south. So without wasting any time, let's get into the top 5 such Telugu movies, starting from number 5. So movie number 5 is going to be Yamagola. This movie was released in the year 1977, and the main protagonist of this movie is none other than Nandamuri Taraka Ramarao Garu, the senior. The story is predominantly about a very rebellious youth in a village and who accidentally gets killed and gets accidentally taken over to Yamaloka. So in the first half of the movie, we are fed with some hilarious scenes when NTR Garu goes to Yamaloka and creates the Yamagola or the havoc in Yamaloka. And in the second half, it's the reverse. Yamadharmaraju and Chitragupta come down as regular human beings, and again it takes us into some hilarious scenarios. It was such a genius satirical movie and way ahead of its time that it was remade not in one but 2 other languages. In Hindi, it was remade by our own Jumping Jack Jitendra, and in Tamil, it was remade by the great Shivaji Ganeshan. Not just that, very recently it was remade in Telugu itself by none other than S.S. Rajamouli. And guess who starred in that same role? It was none other than Junior NTR, who is the grandson of the great NTR Garu himself. What a great movie it is, and still it stands the testimony of time. Even if you watch it now, you are bound to enjoy it the same. You can catch both the Hindi and the Telugu version on YouTube. Movie number 4 in the list is Kartikeya 2. If Hollywood has Da Vinci Code, why should we be left behind? We have our own Kartikeya 2 to compete with Da Vinci Code. The reason why I included this movie in this list is not just because it is an excellent treasure hunt kind of a movie, but also it reveals the fact and concludes that Krishna was actually existing as a human being, and Mahabharata is not just an epic, not just a mythology, but actual history of India. And it kinds of links to Kalki because Kalki is also achieving the same. It tries to talk about Ashwatthama still being alive, and there is a Kalki Avatara which will happen just after the conclusion of Dwapara Yuga. Kali Yuga has started. So there are some similarities over here. You can watch Kartikeya 2 on Z5. Now we come to the top 3. Movie number 3 on the list is Bimbisara. Now, even though the movie's name suggests about the king Bimbisara, from the Magadha dynasty. This movie has no link to that king. It is a fictitious character and it is an assimilation of all bad kings throughout our history. The storyline is actually very unique and interesting. Kalyan Ram plays the role of Bimbisara, a very cruel king in his timeline who comes across a magical mirror which transforms him into the current day Hyderabad, where he goes through certain incidents and meets certain characters who changes him as a good person, and then he does the ultimate fight sequence and then goes back to his timeline, but now as a reformed king he rules for a longer time. Even though it's a very new movie and it uses a lot of known movie tropes, especially known Telugu movie tropes, it does come across a very unique storyline and a very unique take on time travel. That's what attracted many audience to this movie. And also there is one excellent song in this movie, you know which I am referring to. And also I would argue that this movie is one of the better movies of Kalyan Ram's filmography, and also his acting capabilities. I was actually surprised by that one. You can catch this movie on ZEE5 too. Now we come to my two favorite movies of the list. Movie number 2 is Jagadeka Veerudu Atiloka Sundari. I know it's a mouthful of a title, but hear me out. This movie brings together two of the biggest stars, at least in South India, in the form of megastar Chiranjeevi and Sridevi. And it is directed by the one and only K. Raghavendra Rao Garu. And you know what's the coincidence? It is produced under the Vaijayanti Movies banner, who is producing the Kalki movie as well. Now the movie is about a Devakanya who, as part of a shrap, comes down to earth and lives among the regular human beings, and coincidentally she comes and lives with the main character, that is Chiranjeevi, who plays an orphan himself, and he is also raising a bunch of orphan kids. Quite similar to the situation in Mr. India, but this movie has a completely different storyline altogether. Now, the movie had a lot of things which made it a super duper hit of its time. Number one is definitely the superb comedy timing, especially between Chiranjeevi and Sridevi Garu. It is excellent. Both of them are at the top of their game, especially in the comedy scenes. And point number 2 is the excellent music by Ilayaraja Garu. And a side note on this one, people who are fans of the movie Beta, in which Madhuri Dixit became famous for the song Dhak Dhak Karne Laga, I'm sorry to disappoint you. This song is a direct copy of an original song in Jagadeka Veerudu Atiloka Sundari, because Beta came out in 1992 or 93, but this movie came out in 1990. And listen, had none other than Amrish Puri as one of the villains, main villains actually, and he has dubbed his own voice, and he was excellent in his portrayal, especially after Mogambo's portrayal. This is one of the most iconic villain portrayals, at least in South Indian movies so far. You have to watch this movie, and it is available on YouTube. And finally, we come to the movie number 1, and this is also one of my personal favorites during my childhood days, Aditya 369. The movie is actually inspired from the Hollywood series Back to the Future, but it is a completely different take on the storyline. It is, of course, about time travel, wherein the hero surprisingly, Balakrishna, who travels back in the time to the historical period of the 15th century or 16th century, if I am not mistaken, and goes to the court of Krishna Devaraya. Yes, Krishna Devaraya was actually ruling the entire, if you take Karnataka and Andhra together, today's Karnataka and Andhra together, Krishna Devaraya was ruling at that time. Not only that, the movie does another time travel and goes into the future in, I believe, 2500 year, where it reimagines how the world would have changed during 2500 years. And just remember, this movie is made in the year 1991. It is before the path-breaking movie of Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. And it was made in India at such a low budget, but still you will be blown away by the concept and the execution in this movie. And who is the genius behind this movie? He is none other than Sangeetam Srinivas Garu. Talented guy, and I would actually reserve discussing about his filmography altogether for a different video. He is amazing in this movie as a director, as a visionary. And also, just like the previous movie, the movie has excellent comedy scenes and it has excellent music by, again, Ilayaraja Garu. And surprisingly, this is one of the better performances of Balakrishna, wherein he is not playing his typical mass masala hero, but a very underplayed roles. He is actually doing a double action in this, and my favorite is his interpretation of Krishna Devaraya's role. So well done, so underplayed, and so handsomely done in this movie. Brilliant, brilliant. You have to watch this movie, which in my opinion raised the envelope of Telugu movie for technology, technical aspects, and even visionary, whatever you call it. Mr. Sangeetam Srinivas Garu was the original OG much before Rajamouli or Shankar or even Kalki's director Nagashwin. So here you go. These were my picks and my suggestions for you, wherein 5 Telugu movies which raised the bar and which raised the envelope, where they were mixing Pauranika into modern day era, and which are a must watch before you jump into watching Kalki next week. Thank you so much. We will continue this series next week as well. See you next week with another top 5 video.